Science, 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 science.
Welcome, students, to another episode of A Moment of Silence with Mr. Solis. As always, we have Mr. Quintero from down the hall, and today we have a special guest, Mr. Anguiano, from across the. Is it across the street or across the down the road?
Down the road, yeah.
Down the road.
On the other side of the pot.
Terrell Middle School. And you wanna introduce yourself? A little bit about yourself, sir?
Yeah, I'm Coach Anguiano. This is I just finished up my 16th year in education. 15 of those was spent at Kingsborough Middle School, and this was the first year I spent at Terrell Wells. I teach investigating careers in 7th grade. I've taught the keyboarding course in 6th grade, and I've taught college and career readiness. Some of my hobbies include obviously coaching. I love to coach and mentor young men and young ladies, and barbecuing, golf. Those are just a couple of my extracurricular things that I love to do. And yeah, that's a little bit about myself, just kind of real quick.
Nice. So you mentioned barbecue, and I remember a long time ago when we first met, you said, yeah, you know what? Barbecuing is just science. I mean, when it comes down to it, it's not like, I mean, it's an art form, I would say as well. But really, if you can understand the science of it, then you're going to be a pretty good cook. So what do you think the most difficult part of being like somebody who barbecues when it comes in terms of the science? Like, what's the most difficult part about it?
Well, number one, I think first of all is meat selection. Obviously, the higher grade of meat that you actually buy or get, obviously it's going to take into effect taste and tenderness. Cooking to temperature. Sometimes, obviously you want to cook to internal temperature. For example, just say a brisket. Brisket, you want to aim for 202. 202 to 206, kind of around that mark where the meat's done. However, when you probe, just say the brisket to check, the meat will actually tell you, the tenderness of it all. So that is kind of, I guess, the trick to it is knowing, I guess, when the meat's ready, so to speak. So yeah, a lot of science, like I said, like you mentioned, Coach, a lot of science goes into it. Heat, moisture. Obviously a lot of these things go on and we just kind of take them for granted. We think, we put a piece of meat on the grill and, come back later and it's, tastes like smoke and, and that's the process. But there's just so much more that goes on with that process.
So you said that the quality of the meat, because sometimes I'll buy like cheap meat. What does that mean? Like, is it not good? Like, it's good, isn't it? Like, well, I'm not getting sick or nothing. So what is it?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's just different grades of meat. It's just like,
like grade A is number one.
Yeah. Oh, grade A. Like you'll start off like a Wagyu, if you've heard of a Wagyu,
No.
which is a Japanese cow, which the cow is a little bit maintained a little bit better. So to speak, it's the food that they give it, the attention to detail that they give in taking care of this animal is a little bit more fine-tuned. Then you have
so the meat from the cows that I get are not maintained, like they're just like
yeah, actually, yeah. So
they're abused and they make fun of them. Get over there, you stupid cow or something.
Yeah, some of these cows get treated better than my kids. It's just it's just kind of one of the meat select. Like I said, there's different quality. Your prime meats are really also good, and then you have your select, you have your choice meats. These are different meats, but not to say that these meats aren't good. Like I said, just the quality. I guess it's maybe like a vehicle. Have a Ferrari versus having a Ford. Actually, just watched that movie just the other day. Great movie. Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah. Not to say that they're like I said, Ferrari, you just have a different standard, I guess. Ford, obviously, but like I said, Ford still makes a great product. Like I said, it's just a different standard.
Yeah,
one of
my meat.
I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead. I'm sorry. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. One of the things I did try, and this is I'm going to share with you guys, is salt brining on a steak. I tried this the other day, and just kind of as an experiment, because science again. We run experiments, and
That's right.
yeah, I just tried it. I had saw it off a YouTube video that I had watched with Cosmos Barbecue, where he actually used a salt brine before he actually cooked his steak. So he covered the salt, he covered the steak and completely covered it in salt, in kosher salt, for about 15 minutes. And obviously, you're going to have a chemical reaction with that salt, with that meat. So it actually tenderized that meat. Now he did mention too, like, do not go over 15 minutes, because after 15 minutes, essentially what happens is like the fat and the protein in the meat will actually break down. And he goes, if you leave it on longer than 15 minutes, you could actually, that steak will turn into just like regular, like, meat, like beef meat or what have you, but once you rinse it off, I actually have a picture of it too. I could probably show you.
Yeah.
It looks kind of suspect at first, but when you really,
So if I'm getting this right, you just get a piece of steak and you just put salt all over it.
yeah, so you layer a bit of salt on the bottom, and yes, and then you cover it with salt again, and yeah, let's see. See that there?
Oh wow!
Oh, yeah, a lot of salt.
That's a lot of salt. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, but actually, and let me see if I could give you guys this. This was kind of like, oh, you can see that. That was the tail end of the steak right there.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, probably one of the best steaks I've ever had in my life. Yeah. This part, yes, yeah, and I know the salt kind of, you see that and you say, well, obviously naturally is going to be salty. Is the questions like, wow, that's a lot of salt, I'd say to my buddies, but no, after that you rinse off the salt, then you actually re-season with salt. So yeah, so for example, like a quality of meat, just say like you buy a lower end, which lower end, the tenderness of the beef may not get there, but if you actually go through this process, you could actually have a steak that's maybe not a higher grade, actually tastes similar to a higher grade.
Yeah. What about like bad barbecue? Can you like what's the problem with bad barbecue?
Bad barbecue.
Hey, wait. How long did you cook that steak, man? Did you like slow smoke it? Did you grill it at 350? Or like how did you?
Yeah. So I like high heat. Texas is kind of, for example, traditional Texas barbecue. You're looking 200, 225, kind of right in that range where it's a long cook, drawn out process where, you're really paying attention to your fire and managing your fire. And I mean, yeah, it's just one of these things. Like with the steak, I'm cooking at a higher heat. I'm trying to aim for about 500 degrees. Yeah, I'm putting it about 4 minutes aside and making those sear marks on there, flipping it over, and then I'm drizzling a little bit of butter on there as well during this process. So yeah, it just depends. Like if you're cooking a brisket, like for example, like I was just mentioning, 200 to 225 range. Like we go as like with my partner that I cook with, we go as high as 300. There's guys that even go 400 in a brisket, and then gradually bring the heat down. So what it does is just speeds up the cooking time on it. But bad barbecue, I don't know if there's things such as bad barbecue. Now you could make a question for like over smoked barbecue. Like sometimes when, for example, like your wood's not seasoned correctly and you're putting wood in there and it's just not ready to go, and you have a thick of like white smoke like coming out of your cooker, that's probably telling you like, hey, listen, I'm not using the right fuel. And because ultimately what you want to see from that cooker is kind of no smoke. You want to see a clear smoke. Some people even say a blue smoke that comes from, that pit. But yeah, that's kind of most people in Texas, they think, well, automatically, well, if I'm not smoking, like it's not like, no, it's got nothing to do. It's got really nothing to do with that. A little bit, yes, but initially, but as your fire is burning, it's actually burning cleaner when you actually don't see cleaner and hotter. So
like here in San Antonio, like the best barbecue would probably be like what? You got Bill Miller's and then the McRib.
Right. Oh man, there's not too many places that actually pay for barbecue. Not too many places that would actually throw down some serious money, because barbecue is like for example, like, you know, we were kind of raised in that generation, like and it's funny, like my dad, like $5 was your limit for lunch, you know, like you can't spend over $5 for lunch, like that's too much. Now we're just in a different era, especially with barbecue. Like barbecue before, it's like brisket was such a like cheap cut piece of meat. And, you know, the reason why people loved it so much was because, you know, it was cheap and you could feed the entire family for, you know, a decent amount of, or less amount of money. So now it's just when you're getting into these prime briskets, for example, like 2M Barbecue, which I think is the best barbecue shop here in San Antonio. They use a prime brisket. So they're charging $20 a pound for their brisket. And if you were to tell like our fathers or our relatives, like I pay $20 a pound for brisket, man, they'd like hit the roof. What do you mean $20? You're talking the entire brisket? No, like just like a pound of brisket. But yeah, it's kind of the next up and wave of barbecue restaurateurs that are coming in. A lot of it was, obviously it's Austin driven with Franklin's barbecue. Franklin being kind of putting Franklin and John Lewis, those guys were kind of the pioneers of kind of traditional barbecue and kind of putting that finer touch on it. Kind of adding that new age, that new age to it. So yeah, it's just one of those things. Like I said, 2M Barbecue is probably, like I said, the best. One place here in the South Side as well. Another place is South Barbecue, which I'm a big fan of. South Barbecue right here on Mission Road. Those are two spots in the South Side that are really doing barbecue right. That's just kind of my opinion. I could be wrong, and I've been wrong once or twice before. Never coaching them. Except for you guys this year. We couldn't stop you guys. That first you guys were awesome. So, but that's because Coach Castro wouldn't listen to me. I'm just playing.
So at the end of the year, here in science, we're talking about cells, we talk about taxonomy. But one thing I really like to talk about the students with is since the summer's coming up, in a traditional summer, I would tell them, I know you guys are going to stay up late watching TV and you guys are just going to eat a bunch of junk food. And I kind of like to talk about how eating a bunch of basic like garbage, like McDonald's and fast food and stuff like that, what it does to the body. So I wonder if you guys, maybe Quintero, why is it not a good idea to eat a bunch of fast food all the time? What could it do to your body?
Well, I mean, obviously you're going to put on some weight. I mean, especially if you're not exercising, you're sedentary. But beyond that, I mean, it's got a lot of there's a lot of processed food that they serve. I mean, and then you got a lot of carbohydrates, those kind of things. So it's not like processed and stored away for the purpose of being fast food to serve the masses. So it's not like cooked in the home where you have vegetables and things like that. But I think that fast food, I think it's okay. I mean, I think it's okay to eat out every now and then, but I don't think it's obviously it's not healthy to eat it every day. It's gonna come with a lot of health issues. If not now, then for sure later down the road. I mean, there's that with that documentary that guy did with the McDonald's, where he ate McDonald's like for 30 days in a row or something like that. Right. And the transformation was like incredible. I was like, man, you can see exactly how it affects you. So But I mean, health wise, really is the main thing. I mean, it's just not healthy food. So I mean, it's delicious. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's good to have every now and then, but I don't every day. Nah, man, you're looking for a quick decline in your health if you do that.
Yeah.
One of the things that one of the assignments I did in my class, investigating careers this year, through our food safety clusters, we actually looked at different fast food restaurants, and we made a spreadsheet, and the kids were amazed. I had them look up calories. I had them look up carbohydrates, sodium, fat content. Like, they were just kind of taken back a little bit, because, you know, typically you want to be between that 2,000 to 2,500, you know, calorie range in a day. But the kids were kind of taken back when they're like, oh, wow, you know, you mean this one meal that I have, you know, is 1,000 calories? I'm like, yeah, that's just one meal that you sit down and have. You could have, you know, your allowed calorie intake, you know, or close to that, just in one meal a day.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was kind of a big, it was when I think my lessons that went over like really well with them, because it was kind of an eye opener for some of them. And obviously, you know, your metabolism's working when you're a kid. You know, most kids are getting out exercising. They're getting some sort of form of exercise. But when you get a little older, and we've kind of, you know, I'll speak for myself, but when you kind of hit that age, and when you hit that age over 40, and you know, you get to 45, 50, when you're kind of looking at that age, your body's like, I really can't, you know, number one, I really can't take these meals because, you know, Coach Quintero and I, we've had that conversation where we've eaten clean for a while, and then all of a sudden you have something in you know, your stomach is just, you just don't feel right.
Yeah.
You know, we've had that conversation, you know, numerous of times when you're eating healthier, and you're having, you know, you're fit. And one thing too is like trying to, you know, I know we've been talking brisket for a while and steak, but you know, it's kind of staying off meat, is staying off meat a little bit, and you know, eating fish, which is high in omega-3, you know, fish, chicken, and vegetables. You know, it's just one of those things that you just really can't go wrong with, you know, when you're watching a diet or watching what you're inputting into your body.
Now, I should put as a disclaimer here, none of us are nutritionists. None of us are doctors. So don't listen to anything we say. We're gonna...
Except the brisket. Except
eat brisket.
Yes,
I don't want to get any phone calls from parents like, did you tell my kid to eat fish every day because he's going to the hospital? Or no, like, don't do that.
Yeah, no, we're not nutritionists at all. But like I said, but
see, look, Edward, the good thing about that is that it's because we experiment with different foods.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can
go ahead.
No, and you can, and what I'm saying is, like Anguiano was saying, was that you can tell like which foods, how it affects your body after a while when you start changing your diet. And then you have something that you haven't had in a while, and you're like, wow, man, that really made me feel like the biology, the biological process, all that stuff that goes on, you can actually feel that, and it affects you. So that was the kind of like when you experiment eating fish, meat, fast food, and you do that for a while, like you eat healthy, and then you go and eat like fast food, and you understand how your body actually processes food, and you're like, wow, man, I didn't realize it made me feel like that, because you've been doing it so long, right? I mean, you don't really know until you get off of that crap.
Yeah, like especially in the summer, there's times where, like in the past, I would eat fast food every day or every other day, and I wouldn't be working out. I would just be staying at home watching TV. And after, it only takes about a week, maybe 2 weeks, and then I just start to get headaches. I just feel groggy. I'm irritable. I'm just in a bad mood. And then once I start to say, you know what, this is too much. I got to start moving around. I got to move my blood cells. I got to get the blood moving. It takes about a week, and I'm like, oh, wow, I feel so much better. Like, your body will let you know when you're not doing something that you should be doing.
Yeah, I think even too, like water intake as well too, is not having, 7 to 8 glasses. What's regular 7 to 8 glasses per day. Of water is your water intake and that's being able to have your body hydrated during this process, especially with summer, because it's hotter. You're outside, maybe you're moving around, and you're not replenishing your body with water, you know, versus like a sugary drink, even like Gatorade. And like I said, most kids think, well, Gatorade, you know, Gatorade's the best thing. I'm like, well, Gatorade's, you know, got tons of sugar in it as well too.
Right. Yeah.
So it's kind of one of those things where being educated, you know, a little education behind that, I think goes a long way. And knowing that, you know, just like fuel for putting into your car, you know, there's regular fuel and there's premium fuel, and you know, it's kind of one of those things when you're doing that to your own body.
Yeah. What happens if you put premium fuel in like a regular car? Because I did that one time to my car. I'm like, oh shoot, that's the wrong gas. So what happens to your car? Is that a bad thing?
It just burns cleaner. I think it burns cleaner.
A blue smoke comes out of your car.
I think the main thing is it burns cleaner, and so it doesn't leave. I don't know. I mean, honestly, I don't know because I'm not an expert, so anything I'd be saying could be false. But I think it's part of the burning process, like it burns cleaner or something like that. But other than that, I don't know the specific, like how it affects the engine, but I'm sure it has some kind of effect. I mean, I would hope, otherwise it's a scam, right?
You're just paying an extra $1 for nothing.
Yeah.
What if you put that in a lawnmower?
Well, like I don't know, man. Super lawnmower.
Yeah. I mean,
maybe the lawnmower.
I don't see why it would actually, you know, hurt it.
Yeah.
So
now, have you guys ever? Obviously, there's like fad diets, and I don't recommend that because they never really last the test of time. But have you guys ever tried any fad diets like Atkins? Or I remember last year, and again, I do not recommend anybody do this, so don't do it. But there was a time where I was on the carnivore diet where all I would eat was just meat. And it was strange because I did lose a lot of weight. Like you could basically just eat as much meat as you want, but you can't do anything else. Like you can't eat like corn or potatoes or nothing, just meat all the time. And I guess that was like a form of low carb diet. Like meat doesn't really have any carbs. Have you guys tried anything like that before?
I've tried something similar to that. Obviously with some of the, you know, but I did incorporate vegetables with it, you know, and that's another thing too. It's like eliminating kind of starches and carbs, you know, and sugars. Yeah, you'll notice right away. You know, you'll notice right away your body. Well, I think the more you notice is when you do have something else that does have it. For example, like tea. You know, sweet tea here is kind of like a staple, and the second now I can't even stomach like sweet tea when I have it. Like I just take a sip of it. I'm like, I can't finish this. You know, it's just too sweet. So you get, I guess, an enhancement, I guess, from, your taste buds that really kind of amplify, you know, these tastes that you have, because for so long, you know, you've drank your tea this way, and then you go from eliminating sugar, and now all of a sudden it's one of those things where, you know, I have, you know, when I do drink tea, it's not with sugar. So, even my coffee, you know, before too, I would put, you know, cream and sugar into now it's like I drink it black. And it's just one of those things where your body just kind of adapts to it. And yeah, and I think that's the whole thing of it. And like, I guess they're unwanted calories, you know, so to speak. You know, you just kind of get rid of those unwanted calories where, you know, you do that in a diet, and you'll notice the difference. But yeah, I've tried stuff like that too. Jesse, you've tried keto?
I've done like the I went vegan for a while. I tried that, eating plant-based foods. I found that to be very difficult in San Antonio in the South Side because there's not a lot of stores that are vegan friendly. However, that still incorporates like a lot of carbs in your daily diet. And so trying to eat a low carb vegan is essentially, there's so much science in that. I mean, it's crazy. It was overwhelming. That's why they always say when, you know, changing your, like if you want to go vegan, and again, I don't recommend anybody trying these things. But I'm not a nutritionist, but I tried it and I did that for a while. And you know what? I did feel fuller longer, but it was still a lot of carbs. And then I've tried, low carb. I still think that, and then I guess through all the whole process of trying all these different things, you find, I just think that, you know what? Like Anguiano was saying, unwanted calories. You're just going to eat and you incorporate, I think it's a mixture. Like you eat fish, eat some meat, you have your vegetables, and that's all low carb anyways, and you're still eating healthy. So I think that, I found out like the best thing is, and they always say have a well-rounded diet. And then that's kind of like, so you're kind of searching for these things like, how can I be healthy? And really, it's just the easiest thing, right? You just eat your greens, have some fish, have some meat, and cut out your unwanted calories, like your sugars, your soda, your sugar in your tea, all those things that you don't really account for. Like you may say, oh, let me have a Coke in the middle of the day, and it's got like 60 grams of sugar. So and it's like 250 calories or whatever, and you're like, you don't think it's a big deal because it's just a drink, but those things affect you in a huge way. So I think through this whole process, I've tried many diets, and I think just eating a better balanced diet is probably the best approach. But again, that's just my opinion. I'm not an expert.
Yes, add an exercise.
Oh yeah, there you go. You got to add in the exercise.
Yeah. Add in the exercise, because sometimes you could go the diet, and I've been guilty of it as well. Where I started eating better, and then I was like, yeah, I need to exercise. I need to actually get out there and be physically active. One of the things that I was talking to Ed about right before the call was these trails that we have, these bike trails that we have here, right in our backyard, right near our schools, and the Mission trails, the Espada Trail, the trail down by the Mission to Lago Golf Course. It's a great way to incorporate those exercises into a walk or into a bike ride, and take advantage of our backyard, because this is our backyard, and we want to be able to promote healthy living, because along with healthy living, mentally, and that's one of the things that Coach Solis was talking about, mentally, you just all around feel better in general. And just, I know, like with being on this, COVID-19 restrictions, just being able to get outside, because a lot of us have been cooped up inside. I know, like for the first couple of weeks, I really was aware, like I better not go outside, I better not. But mentally, like I was feeling a little down, it was like, I wasn't feeling the same. I was just, I guess, like a lot of other teachers and other students and a lot of other people, around the country, where I just needed to get out, and I needed to get some, get some sunshine and be able to, sweat a little bit and overall just kind of feel better about, number one, myself, because you're sitting here at the house and you're just eating, and like everybody, I think we all gained a little weight, but I'm like, wait, why are we making this like it's okay to get outside? It's okay to, get a little exercise. It's okay to, continue to live life, the way we should live it. It was a balanced meal with exercise and overall, like I said, everything that comes from it, I think helps you as a person.
Yeah. So, we have a bunch of students who are going to be 7th graders next year, and they're going to be playing sports. And I know that in the past, I've had several students tell me, like, sir, like, why are steroids bad to take? And I always say, because you don't want to put anything in your body that your body's not, like, that a doctor doesn't tell you to put in. So I wonder if y'all could talk a little bit about why you think steroids are a bad idea.
Well, for one, it's unnatural. I think it's like you're looking for a quick fix with steroids, like the magic pill, right? As so to speak, right? People always want the magic pill. They're looking for that one thing that's going to give them an edge or fix a problem they have. And I think steroids does that for people. They think it does that. But it's got a lot of it does a lot of bad things to your body. And I don't think, especially when you're not informed or educated enough about the effects of steroids. I think, like, especially young kids, they don't really understand how it affects them, and so I think they probably go in with that mindset. They're willing to try it, and it's dangerous, and it has really adverse effects on the body. So that's the whole thing. It's unnatural. There's ways to there's ways to gain muscle mass without those cheats. I call it, like, cheats. Yeah, there's ways to do that. So that's what I think.
Yeah, I agree 100% with you, Coach. And one of the things too is with, there's just too many side effects that you're playing at risk with your body with taking steroids just to get the, I guess, if you could call it an edge, but it's just not worth the health risk. And especially too now that, sports science is really like just grown over the last, 20 years. With having nutritionists, with having strength and conditioning coaches, with having all these other outlets, whereas before, like like our generation, for example, like The Last Dance with Jordan, you've got the greatest basketball player, in my opinion, I guess, ever to live. I guess it just depends what time frame you grew up in. But you have him, who's the best best basketball player, arguably, to ever live. And just think of, in my mind, I'm thinking, how much better could he have been if he had the sports science behind it?
Right.
If he had, you see him there, sometimes he would occasionally, take part in an occasional drink or, and it kind of shows him in the locker room, that maybe like drinking, having an adult beverage in there. And it's just now unheard of now. I think something like LeBron, correct me if I'm wrong, spends like a couple $1 million a year just in sports nutrition and taking care of his body. That's why he's been able to, kind of prolong his careers, because he's having the sports science behind it. But to me, it's like steroids, like I said, if you want that quick fix, and it's in the end, it's not gonna get you there. And not only that, it's against the law, and you're putting your life in danger.
Oh, and your athletic career. You get caught doing that, you won't be able to play sports. So yeah, that's another, for sure.
Well, that's interesting that you bring up sports science, because it's not only like what you eat, but I've also read like when the Spurs were winning their championships, I read that Popovich read a study about sleep, and for the longest time, he said the Spurs were having practice like at 10 in the morning, and then he realized that that was kind of messing up with their sleep. So he ended up moving practice to like 2 p.m. to give his players more time to sleep. And like that research like that wasn't available in the 50s. In the 50s, it was like, yeah, you just play basketball whenever. But then he realized like, yeah, it doesn't really make sense to, if you're going to have tired players or players who haven't been sleeping a lot, then they're probably not going to perform as good as they should. So there's a lot of stuff that our bodies, that we don't even recognize in our bodies, that need in order to perform at a level, like at a professional level, I suppose.
That's true. Yep.
And going back to the Jordan LeBron debate, it's kind of hard because I want to say Jordan. I think that's the right answer, but I always feel like people undercut LeBron a little bit. And one of the best arguments I've heard was, if you were to get LeBron and put him in the 90s, or if you were to just take out Jordan and put in LeBron, wouldn't the Bulls still win 6 champiomships?
I
don't know how anybody from the 90s would have guarded LeBron. The guy he's 6'8", he's 250. There's no way that John Stockton, because another argument I hear is like, oh, look at all the players that Jordan stopped winning a championship. And I'm like, yeah, but he didn't stop them all at once. Like they had their own team. LeBron literally he's playing against super teams. He's playing against Duncan, Ginobili, and Parker all on one team. He's playing against Golden State Warriors, those 3 guys all on one team. Jordan is playing against like Charles Barkley. That's it. That's all he has to beat. He didn't have to beat Charles Barkley, Robinson, and Karl Malone on one team.
Right. Yeah. But here's my response to that is that the game was played differently. It was a different style of game back in the 80s. You had more of your half court sets. Now, like moving forward into your 2000, you still had your half court set with the Spurs.
Right.
during the play, the only time he played a half court set like in the 2000s was in playoffs. Everything slowed down. That's why you had games that were in the 80s and the 70s, still in the 2000s. Back in the 80s, the style of play was different. Okay, when you went to the down the lane, you took physical abuse. You took
You don't think LeBron could handle that?
Well, I don't think physically he could. Mentally, I don't think he probably couldn't. I mean,
see, and that's another argument that I hear is like, do you think that Jordan could have, especially seeing the documentary, how he was like getting frustrated with the media? Imagine Jordan playing now with like Facebook and Twitter and 24/7 sports media. They would have just constantly been criticizing him for every little thing. And you see in the documentary, The Last Dance, how he gets frustrated with the media. He's like, I'm not going to talk to you guys anymore. And that was back in the 90s when it was still like not as crazy as it is now. Now, like LeBron doesn't shake somebody's hand and everybody goes crazy for like a 24-hour news cycle. Like he's got a spotlight on him nonstop. And Jordan, he didn't have to worry about Twitter. He didn't have to worry about going somewhere and people immediately at that moment knowing where he's at all the time.
Yeah, well, I agree. Yeah, I think so. And that's why I respect LeBron so much, because he's had to live under that microscope, especially too with social media, with phones now. I mean, now what does everybody do the second somebody walks by? They put out their phone and start recording. It's just a different time, and that's an argument. I guess we could sit here and argue about all day, but that's what I do respect LeBron. Like he's been like the model player for the NBA. Having to deal with all those issues and not getting in trouble and not having any major off-court issues. That's something that the greatest.
To flip that around on I agree that because they're different eras, the games are played different, and that's with all sports. For example, if you put Tom Brady back in the 80s, do you think he'd be as successful? Absolutely not, because you could clothesline, late hit.
Greatest of all time.
So would he have a prolonged career in the 80s? I don't know. It's hard to.
Yeah, I mean, he's not wearing the equipment that's the updated equipment that
the science of the equipment. Yeah, better helmets. Yeah,
helmet.
Pads. I've already educated Quintero on the greatest quarterbacks of all time. So Tom Brady, and then right below Vince Young, and then Colt McCoy. Right.
Oh gosh, little UT bias here. How about Major Applewhite?
There you go. He's number 4.
No, I thought he was gonna say Colt McCoy. Where's Colt McCoy on there?
No, Colt McCoy's number 3.
Oh, okay.
How about James Brown? James Brown.
Where's Ricky Williams and running backs?
That's right.
Vince is number 1. Yeah.
So anyhow, but that's my thing is it's hard to really compare eras of athletes. I think you could say Jordan in his era was the greatest of all time. Could he compete now? I mean, he could compete now. Would it be as successful? The players are faster, stronger, taller. I mean, what's funny is really you could see the evolution of the athlete if you go back to the 40s and 50s and you watch these videos, and the athlete in the 50s looks like a common man today, like a common athlete today, right? Someone who wouldn't be a pro athlete, and you see that evolution and how they get bigger, faster, stronger, and it continues. It's it just continues. That trend continues upward. It continues to do that. And I'm thinking like, well, when is it going to stop? Like how much are these athletes going to continue to get better? Like with Usain Bolt, when he broke the records and he was just, that's like superhuman. Could people get faster? Is that going to happen? Because that's what's happening, right? I mean, with these athletes. So that's interesting. We'll see 20 years from now, and we'll see the athlete. And again, like I said, it's a continual evolution. I think that's happening with people today. I mean, we're all evolving in some shape, way, or form. We're just evolving in a certain path, I think. And it depends on what you do. It depends on what you do, how you evolve and how you change.
that's why I talk about the next level. The next step is designer babies. You go into
Oh my
the
God.
doctor's office and you say, "Look, I want my kid to be 7 feet tall. I want him to be this quick." And then all of a sudden, you have
That's
got a bunch.
that's happening naturally already, Edward.
Yes.
No, but you're gonna go to a lab. You're gonna say, "I want an 8-foot baby, and I want him to be able to run this fast." And then
Right.
you got the next level.
And have 5 million followers on Instagram.
There you go. That's the next step. And all you just
Oh
feed
my
them
God!
every day.
You gave somebody a pitch line to start an Instagram or a Facebook account when their baby is born, and then from there on, follow them throughout their life.
That's what's gonna happen when you leave the hospital. You're gonna have your Facebook profile for your kid ready to go. All right, so it looks like we're coming to the tail end of this podcast. So, as always, I'd like to leave it to you guys to just say whatever you'd like to your students. So maybe if they haven't seen you, they can get a little message. So I'll leave it with you, Mr. Anguiano. Is there anything you'd like to say to the students?
Yes, just you guys just hang in there, stay safe. Just like all of your teachers were thinking about you, we guys miss you. We want to make sure that you guys come back healthy for next year. Just continue doing what you're doing. Challenge yourself daily. This distance learning has been a challenge. Continue to ask questions, ask for help. There's no weakness in asking for help with whatever you do. So, like I said, take care of yourself, take care of your family. It was good, talking. Thank you for inviting me, Mr. Solis, Mr. Quintero. Like I said, I think we had a little good conversation here. Hopefully, we weren't too boring. But yeah, thank you guys.
I just want to say we're almost there. We got a few weeks left. So the light at the end of the tunnel. And then you have your break. I mean, of course, it feels like a break already, right? I mean, in a way it does. But, we'll get back to school. Things will get back to normal and life will move on. And we'll look back on this and think of and see how crazy it was. So, but I'm looking forward to the next year. Honestly, I am looking forward to getting back to normal and hopefully some kind of normal, right, in August. And it's starting to happen little by little. So that's a good thing. And we miss you guys, and we'll see whatever challenges lay ahead. We'll tackle it together, and we'll make it all work out.
All right, and I want to say, just stay safe. I actually tried 2M last weekend. It was amazing. Tried the beef ribs, really good.
Beef ribs, yes.
Yeah, the beef ribs were amazing. They just fall off the bone. So try them. They're kind of expensive. I mean, for your dad. But they're good. And as always, watch the movie. Do not read the book. That's my advice.
Boo.
All right. Until next week.
Peace.